Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing? Welcome to Digital Hollywood, the best panel of the day. Let's hear it for this panel. All right, my name's Lori H. Schwartz. I get the honor of doing a panel like this every year, and what's so exciting about it is to see how things are moving forward and really progressing. And what's so great about this group that Victor and Digital Hollywood put together is that these folks are all representing entities that are really charting the course in the space of AI and virtual characters and all the things that we want to understand. How is enterprise handling this? Where's the money really going? Or what's really happening and how are they impacting their customers' business? So we're going to do a lightning round of intros and then we're going to get into what's actually happening in their world. So let's just go down the panel.
Hi guys, I'm Kumaran Ponnambalam, Principal Machine Learning Engineer at Cisco. I've been focused on building AI and transforming our business processes for Cisco customer experience.
Is this working? Okay, hi, I'm Christina Lawrence. I'm Chief Social and Innovation Officer at Razorfish, which is part of Publicis Group, and we're a premier connected experiences company.
All right, and I am Publicis Group. No. But I'm Jessica Berger, SVP of Innovation at Publicis Media, where Razorfish is part of. I sit more on the media innovation brand experience side, so I really help our clients understand what all of these new technologies are, how to really think about this, and then what to do about it.
Hi everyone, Mary Hamilton. I'm with Accenture. I'm part of our innovation practice, so I also look out ahead at the future. I work with a lot of our clients to help them think about how they're going to reinvent, especially in the era of AI. And I also run our connected innovation centers around the world.
Woo-hoo.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jordan Cuddy. I am with Monks. I am EVP of Brand Experience and working mostly lately with applied AI direct-to-consumer experiences.
Hello, my name is Ben Rellis. I spent most of my career at YouTube and as a YouTube creator, and then spent the last few years working for Reid Hoffman, and as part of that created a digital twin of Reid based on all of his books and podcasts and interviews. And yeah. Thanks for having me.
And everyone here is actually real, just in case you were wondering.
I do have a digital twin, so.
Yeah, exactly. My digital twin is taller. Anyway, all right, Jordan, I want to start with you and Jess, ask, what is the focus this year for your clients with AI? Because, everyone's been hearing about it for so long. Where are things moving? Where are they going?
To where they're moving and where I'm hoping they're moving is all about the data. So I think the last couple of years, a lot of brands have been trying to figure out how they collapse that marketing funnel from insight to asset out into the marketplace, right? And personalization with respect to content. But now I do think, our clients are kind of coming to us sort of thinking about what data do I think I need, or what data gap do I have and how do I go get it? Or what don't I know and how can I just get more information from our customers? And that's sort of happening in two mechanics. And I'll give you one example with one brand just to show how those are applied. So for Burger King, last year we did a branded campaign called $1 Million Whopper. It was essentially, how do we get nationwide topping data from our consumers that's in a really authentic way? Well, guess what? Burger King's brand promise is have it your way. So we use generative AI to ultimately create a Whopper that they wanted to see on the menu. It entered it into a contest, so that was sort of the draw and the incentive to be a part of it. But under the hood, Burger King has nationwide topping data on their consumers now. So 34% of folks in Arkansas want fried onions. Guess what? Those franchisees owners can put a fried onion Whopper on their menu and ultimately probably drive revenue. It's a great hypothesis. Then also for Burger King, what don't they know? What don't they know about their customer? Well, how about adding conversational AI or just AI in general to get all of that data in the drive-thru? Because no way that drive-thru person is calling up headquarters saying, hey, we're noticing some trends happening here, some modifications people want. They want this menu item back, et cetera. Now, with AI, this awesome tool, we can get all kinds of great data, participatory data that is coming from consumers that want to collaborate and co-create with the brand. And they're learning all kinds of things through drive-thru, and they're being able to get that data parsed really quickly and then get it into product and service innovation. So those are just two examples of how data is likely going to be the future.
And can you just define for the audience, just in case folks here don't really understand first-party data, like why that's so important right now?
Well, I am biased because I'm in experience. So when I think about data that all these brands have, they have data from paid media, which is transactional and quite black box, frankly. And then you have data that is coming from social channels that's owned by the platform based on fixed variables that the platform decides, likes, comments, etc. Not to mention bots. And then you have data from polling, which is biased because it's paid for. So you want data that is rich, first party, owned by you as the brand, and contextual to the consumer journey that customer is already on. You're gonna get a lot more from a customer that you already have and that wants to collaborate with your brand than working so hard to acquire realistically a new one. And that's gonna drive growth exponentially.
So that's exciting. So one of the challenges right now is a lot of folks are afraid of polluted data or unclean data. And so what you're doing is building clean data.
Clean data, and also like in some ways it's insurance policy data against all of the other data that you get. It almost becomes the other affirmation model that you're running to see, were we onto something with this 80%? Oh, you are. So it's kind of working in that way too.
And then all the different regions now know what the hot toppings are for their
Sure.
regions. So
And they're going to continue to sort of run it back. So it changes the creative brief when you start with, what data am I after?
I love that. And also data and data are the same thing.
Thank you guys. Appreciate the translation.
Just in case you were all like, what the hell is she talking about? Data and data are the same thing. All right, so let's go over to you, Kumaran, and tell us what Cisco's been up to. Because I know we got to talk last year, and it was more about chatbots and figuring that out. So tell us how it's changed.
Yeah, I think from last year where there was a lot of focus on chatbots and then user interfaces. And this year, I think AI has moved more into our core stuff, whether it is our products, processes, or personal productivity. In products, you go to any of our products, like let's say in the case of networking, network configuration, monitoring, and automated troubleshooting is all being now done by AI. If you go into security, threat detection and mitigation is happening through AI. If you go to WebEx meetings, you will see noise cancellation techniques being used live in real time. When it gets to processes, a lot of our internal processes, especially in customer experience, the processes that involve adoption and migration, upgrades, network testing, validation, a lot of this is getting now automated. So that a lot of these mundane tasks are done a lot faster. It actually opens up our CX customer-facing architects to actually spend more time with the customer and deal with real problems than trying to do all this data searching kind of stuff. In terms of personal productivity, there's a lot that is coming in. We use a lot of co-pilots for building code. We use assistants for writing documents. We have our own custom processes through which we can build PowerPoints and documents like proposals quickly by pulling from various data sources. So there's a lot that is happening under the hood in terms of the backend processes with respect to AI.
And I know I asked you this when we were briefing, but is the client that you're dealing with, has that person changed now that you're moving from the front, consumer-facing product to these back-end asynchronous workflows? Are you now talking to different people at your clients?
Not necessarily, but what we do see is that they are also open to integrating their systems directly with our system. So earlier, whatever used to be a human-to-human communication can now be automated on both sides. So in that case, yes, we do talk to engineers who are working on that side. So yes, so you will see that AI happening on both sides. That actually speeds up the process. Like if we have a customer's network, we got to troubleshoot something happening. It used to be a manual process. Now there could be local automation, there could be remote automation on our side that can work together to solve problems. So we are moving more and more towards that.
So autonomy is becoming a really big part of the back end for you guys.
To begin with, there's automation, and
Yeah.
slowly we are going through autonomy, various levels of autonomy as we progress and build that trust.
Okay, that's cool. I mean, scary but cool in a good way. Okay. All right, Jessica, let's talk to you and tell us what you've been up to, because again, you're looking at sort of broader Publicis. Give us a sense of what that focus is.
A lot has changed and really nothing at all. That's typically what happens in a year. I know we sat here last year on this, not exact stage, but similar, and we talked about conversational AI and what I think was going to happen, right? So now looking back, was I right or was I wrong? Partially wrong, actually. I was predicting or saying that we were going to see more conversational AI, specifically connected to audio, so that when I go shopping, for example, right, interacting with an app or website, doesn't matter, but there is an opportunity for me to just speak to the website. instead of me having to type and search and doing it the traditional way. So did that happen? Some tried, they didn't quite succeed, I would argue. So we've seen more advances in those spaces, but it's not quite there yet, right? There's more work to be done. On the flip side, if you look at the back end, I think that's where we really saw more advantages being taken care of when, from the media perspective, right? From the brand perspective. Cleaning up your data to that point, understanding the importance of it, and then really integrating it into the systems, right? There's so much more, like, think about the feedback loops that you have, right? When you're running an experience or even just a website, all the analytics, all of that really reining in on and honing in on the benefits of that, understanding what they're truly saying to you, right? What do you know about your customer? What do they want? What's the intention? Honing in on that. So I think on the back end, we saw a lot more advances. The front end customer experience still needs a little bit of work.
And I know we talked about how you're rethinking advertising because of all of this, right? How, or at least what your focus on it is. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a big adventure.
Yeah, all of advertising is being changed. Right?
Starting tomorrow. No. So what I typically mean by that is that we're moving away from static advertising. And I think that's not the big news here. But really moving it into something that is more interactive and where we have, as the user, as the customer, we have more choice over what is being handed to us. So it's no longer just looking at some static image or maybe watching a video and then clicking through, right, going through a traditional funnel, but more so maybe there is now an ad that gives me options. Maybe it's a game, right? Maybe I can interact with it. Of course, the ad platform then learns about my intention, about my interest, and then as a follow-up serves me up better content. So we're just rethinking what it is that we're putting in front of the end user, right? All ads need to be interesting enough for me to want to click on it. So that's what we're going after.
Cool. I'm just curious from the audience, just raise your hand. Have any of you had like really remarkable sort of personalized experiences this year with brands that you love, you know, based on some technology? Anyone just raise your hand? Okay, nobody. Okay, all right. So we're getting there.
Got some work to do.
One person, yeah. All right, but that's what we're going to be seeing. That's where we think the focus is. All right, great. Let's talk to Christina over at Razorfish, and I know there's a lot of AI investing going on right now. So I'd love to hear what you're advising clients, and I know that requires you guys also doing some investing. So tell us what you're up to.
Yeah, sure. And something we've been saying for a while at Razorfish, and I think it's just good to remember, is that AI is still just a tool. It is not a strategy. And so when we're talking to our clients, advising our clients, what is the business problem that we're trying to solve? What is the consumer problem we are trying to solve? What is our goal? Because AI might be the right solution then for that experience, right? And so as a part of that, so now if we've determined now that a client needs a novel solution, internally we have an innovation team that's able to do this rapid sort of prototyping, because that's another big one. Gone are the roadmaps of like, let's plan the next 6 months to a year. We're talking 2 weeks now, guys, because that is what you could actually, that is the time needed to build an actual novel solution, right? With people that know how to use the tools to solve a very distinct use case. And so having that brief at the very beginning is critical. And we've done this through tools that we've created, like, for example, Razorfish Seismic. There was a tool that we've made that will go out and be like an early warning system, able to look at video and podcasts and be able to comb through that data using, conversational AI. You can actually ask the interface, tell me, what are people talking about within podcasts, with Substack, for example, within long-form video, what are the topics, and then use that for, let's say, a client's brand reputation, right? Or to get ahead of certain issues, or to identify interests and new types of content that brand may want to create. But that was a problem that this client had, and we determined that this was the right solution. This is something you can do now, and you can do it rapidly, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally does, especially on the coding that you were talking about, that we can actually use AI to make our tools better for us,
Correct.
for our side of it.
Yes.
So you also were sharing with me how excited you were about how AI is impacting your team creatively.
So I believe that we are in a renaissance for creative. But what I mean by that is that human creativity and ideas have never been more important. Because I'm sure all of you have gone out to your social channels or wherever, and now because of these tools, the ability to create content is ubiquitous. I'm gonna call it AI slop. We all talk about it, right? So finding good content or things that resonate, that's still made by humans. Let's just be very clear. AI is not making that. AI does not have taste, and it needs humans that are experts at using these tools, like we've used any other tool in the past, to create what is emotionally impactful or something that means something to audiences. And I do believe that creativity, that human creativity, is going to be actually a premium. Like, I think in 2026, it is going to be a great year for those that embrace and can be those big conceptual creative thinkers. If anything, I don't think we're at risk, is my point. We'll all be here next year, right? Okay.
And I forgot to tell everyone that we're doing the drinking game. Every time someone says AI, under your chair is tequila shots. So
Yes.
our goal is to get you wasted. So okay, so that's that human in the loop concept, that
100%.
we're not going away.
We are not going away.
We're still important to this. Okay.
Yep.
All right, Ben, let's jump over to you. And many people have heard what you were talking about, which is the AI read, the virtual avatar read. You're really the video person here looking at all of this. Tell us what you think about what's happening in AI in terms of text, audio, video.
Yeah, I think it's really fascinating with AI. 3 years ago, we started talking AI over text, and then I think a lot of people kind of voice pilled and got very used to talking to AI just by talking to it with their voice. And I think the impact of video is going to be really transformational when you can watch a video, talk to it, it can see what you're doing, and it can actually instruct or entertain in a way that you can't do with audio and text. And so, a lot of times, like the cliche about YouTube you'll hear is YouTube democratized distribution and AI democratizes production quality, and it kind of enables anyone to be a storyteller and in ways that weren't possible before, and I think that's true. Another sort of YouTube analogy, I think, with AI video, conversational video, is that when YouTube first started, I think a lot of people, I'm sure there were panels at CES in 2007 saying, like, this is going to have an extraordinary impact, but it was tough to predict what categories, and it took some time to figure out, oh, interesting, gaming and toy unboxings and video podcasts, and it's tough to predict. And I kind of feel the same way about conversational video right now. Like, I have some guesses on where I think there'll be the most impact, but I think it'll be through a lot of experimentation and through these tools getting cheaper and faster and smarter that we'll start to see some breakthrough formats that actually feel very different than anything we've seen before. And that's across, entertainment, shopping, advertising, Hollywood, YouTube economy, all that stuff. I find the whole thing really exciting because it's so new, and at the same time recognize a lot of people find it very bizarre and disconcerting, the idea of talking to a video and it being so realistic they can't tell if they're talking to a human or AI.
Right. Is there Hollywood, Los Angeles particularly, is going through a lot right now because of many different sociological and economical things. But do you think that AI is going to help engage the business more again? Like, are we going to get to people working again? Because a lot of folks are out of
And probably different types of work and different types of job. I mean, like you were saying, I do think for some people this is really incredible that suddenly you don't need to go to film school and have connections to make short films and movies, that now you can do that with these tools. On the other hand, like, the AI slop does get a lot more views than the short films right now. And I find myself like, all right, I'll watch, the Friends cast today and 30 years ago. And you get sometimes sucked into these things that are slop, but they're also very watchable. And so I kind of wondered the same thing about Hollywood, and the types of things that'll break through. Obviously, my hope is that this is going to just completely reinvent the way that an individual can create a film. And then on the flip side, there's this risk that the feeds just get filled up with this stuff that people can't look away from. And that's the stuff that ends up taking up more of our watch time, which would be, kind of unfortunate. So we'll see. It's so weird seeing what I say typed out there behind me. I'm like, does that look smart?
Yeah. Well, I was going to, and Christine, I know you want to jump in. I was just going to ask the audience again, how many of you have either seen something or sent something out that was AI generated, but maybe you didn't know for the first second or you didn't say it was AI generated. Because I've sent stuff out to friends that I just thought was really fun, and they yell at me because I didn't say it was AI generated. You know, this is AI. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that a dog couldn't walk on its first feet.
Cat and dog videos.
Yes, in dog
Right, and
videos.
you're
It was
like-
exactly a dog video. It was dogs picking their new owner. And it made me
That was
emotional.
fake?
That was fake.
Yeah, the army one. Yeah.
But I was
Got me.
emotionally moved by it, and I didn't care how it was made, and I sent it around, and all these people said, you know, that's AI. And I'm like, so now I'm adding that. So
But then how do you feel afterwards when you find out that dog...
I feel terrible.
Right? Yeah.
I actually don't feel
I know,
bad.
I'm asking,
I
like,
just feel like emotionally I was moved by it, whether it was real or not. So I just was moved
but when
by
you
it.
know it's not real, then, because I think this is a big question.
Yeah, it's a
Is
good,
how are we going to handle this from a governance? I'll
Yes.
just say it from a governance perspective.
Yep,
How will we handle this?
yeah.
Because is at some point we're going to have to make a decision as a society at large or
Yeah.
as a culture. Are we going to require that this be disclosed?
Right. And I think
Right?
what I learned from my Smarty Pants digital friends is that I need to say hash AI video because they're on me like white on rice. And what's funny is I always think they're all dead inside and no one's watching anything I send out. But they all reacted to it. So let me ask all of you this then. Just in general, are you seeing all of your clients more interested, jumping in more, freaking out? Like, where's the client temperature right now on all of this great stuff?
So I would say that we're seeing a lot of interest from clients now that we have VO3 and what it has been able to do for longer form content,
Right.
for continuity
And explain
of
just what
storytelling.
VO3 is for everybody. Just
Yeah,
so-
VO3 allows you now to make any of those videos out there of like the dog that you didn't know was not a real dog. Or you would know that Freddie Mercury and Kurt Cobain, they are not alive and they are not singing together, right?
Right.
But you're like, holy shit, like that looks real. That's likely being made with something like a VO3, right? Which is finally, I think it's like we finally reached that moment where we can create long form cinematic content. And so we have a lot of clients who are asking for the use of these tools, but for reasons like we need to decrease production timelines. Or they're looking, honestly, for efficiency and budget, right? Now, especially one of our clients who deals with space and aerospace, okay, well, you know what? What a perfect use case for these tools because we're likely not going to be able to get a crew up into orbit, right? So, I mean, it's a lot of this is now, we're seeing requests for linear, content that can run on linear, and I think we're going to see a lot of this recreation or rethinking of what production teams do
Great.
in 2026.
And
Yeah.
Mary, I didn't want to skip you because I know you have a lot of interesting things. So,
so
and
sorry.
especially
Yeah,
around the
I was gonna comment
agentic,
on that.
it just got interesting. So I was like, I'll get
I
to
was
Mary.
going to add on.
But, yeah. But Mary, tell us again at Accenture your focus, and I know you shared with me, just how you're looking at agents too, which is we
Yeah.
haven't really mentioned agents yet, but we're all dealing
Yeah.
with agentic things. So tell us what that perspective is.
Yeah. So one of the evolutions that we see, and we're spending a lot of time talking to our clients about, are the notion of agents, right, and agentic architectures, and how that will change business. And I think to some degree, it's really about rethinking processes, reinvention. It's a huge opportunity to rethink how are you going to engage with consumers, with end customers. But then also, what does it look like if you have an agent who is acting on your behalf, right? And actually so they're autonomous, right? And they have some degree of ability to go out and do things on your behalf, whether that's for the enterprise or as a consumer. So if you start to think about, well, how are consumers showing up? Are they showing up? They're still very much, people, human, things are going to resonate with them emotionally. But you're also dealing with people's agents, right? And how do they consume information is entirely different. So I think we're going to see an evolution, especially in the media space of, well, are you advertising for humans? Are you advertising for agents? and how do you strike the right balance of those?
Oh, so your agents may each, like, almost like old Hollywood, where your agent talked to the other
Yes.
person's agent. And then the business got done, and you could still go to golf with the person.
There you go. Yes.
So your agents will be hashing it all out. What about on the enterprise side? Is it changing a lot for your clients on the enterprise side?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you think about how work is getting done and the tools, I mean, it's really interesting to put these kind of generative AI or agentic tools in the hands of creatives and see what they do with it. And I think it's most, I've heard some of the conversations about it. It's actually most interesting to put it in the hand of the biggest skeptics and see what they're able to create, because you're right. That human element of the creativity, the imagination, not building on things that have already been done before, but creating something new, and then using these tools to be able to do it in ways that they've never been able to do before. That's what's really powerful. So, absolutely. And then just efficiency, right? Translation. I joked that I have my own digital twin, and one of my favorite things for her to do is speak in other languages, because I don't know Japanese. I don't know, I know French a little bit, but she speaks much better than I do. And so I can actually reach more audiences with very little overhead and, get my message across.
God,
in an
I
easy
love
way.
that. I want one for my 16-year-old, because, man, is she a pain in the... Oh, sorry. I just don't speak her language. Anyway, I want to ask all of you just... what's the most, the common misunderstanding when you're dealing with your brands and your clients? And we could start with you down there if you want, or just when you're talking with people that you're selling to, what don't they understand right now?
If anybody's got one, I would just be going off the top. So yeah, go ahead, and then I'll come up with something
Okay,
while you
cool.
give yours.
No, I was thinking about this just very specifically entering into the new year and thinking about sort of the value prop with respect to all this. And the reason why, Jess, your premonition didn't necessarily come true is largely because of how the misconception of how inexpensive it potentially should be.
Right.
Part of the reason that we can't be direct to consumer with all this conversational AI is not only is the backend not equipped for that, it's all still SEO tagged and not ready to talk agent to agent, but also the compute costs are exponential. So
Right.
when we go and sell an engagement to a food delivery service who wants to do conversational AI to get you a comforting meal for a certain price instead of click, Indian food, they have to fix their whole back end, and then they have to deal with compute. And guess what? The compute costs just as much as the experience.
Right.
And that is a huge misconception right now, that there's all of a sudden shortcuts, you can get assets done really cheap and all this stuff, but tokens and compute, very, very expensive right now.
Anybody else?
And I would say that the pace of change, right? The pace of doing strategies and planning things and thinking about reinvention. If you take 6 months, a year to do that, the technology has changed so dramatically, and even people's perceptions. Use ourselves as an example. People say, "Oh, I tried using Copilot and oh, it didn't really help me." I'm like, "Well, when did you try it?" "Oh, 2 or 3 months ago." It's so drastically different, just in those cycles, that I think the pace of change and how companies are keeping up with that is I don't know if it's a misconception, but it's something people and companies need to get their heads wrapped around.
Anybody else? Yeah.
I'm going to add one more thing, all of that 100%. And another thing as to why my prediction didn't come through. Just looking at the market and what I'm seeing sort of gets built. There's a fine line that you have to hit when you really want to make something that's really, really great and works for many people. Specifically for AI, you have to sort of find the balance between convenience, right? The big promise of AI, it's better, it's faster, all the things. Do that, be better and faster and get me to my result the way I want to, but also don't overdo it with the control and the output, right? I still want to be in charge. I still want to have agency about what is happening here. Specifically, going back to is it bunnies on the trampoline or not? Are those real or not?
Right.
I don't care personally if it's AI or not. It's same as a cartoon to me. Someone has done something creative, that's great. But being able to distinguish between AI or not AI, right? You are in control, that makes you feel better about the experience. So to that point, having convenience and control, finding the balance between that and then putting out the experience in a way that is enjoyable, that's something we need to work on.
Any of you guys?
I'm just going to build on what you're saying, because I do believe the consumer agency, right? But also then there's the education piece around that, because I think and we talk with clients about this, AI is not always accurate.
Yeah.
And we use it much like we use a search engine. We use it like Google. A lot of people are using it like Google. So I don't know if any of you have had, like recently, you're asking, you know, one of the conversational agents a question, and it just gets it wrong. And it gets it wrong over and over. And things like it shouldn't get wrong. Like it didn't know that the Bears were playing Detroit. Did you
Same
see
issue.
that?
Yeah, I was
Okay.
like, what games
like,
matter this week? And
Oh
they
my
gave me
God.
one
I'm like,
matchups.
can you explain second seed? Like, what does that mean, right? Like, I don't know. I'm just excited. I'm a Bears fan. Just want to, okay. But that is a basic question. And it could not answer that. So now apply that to these larger problems that we are solving. How do you build in now the checks and balances or the safeguards? And I don't know if the everyday user, which they have to be, they have to have that agency. They get to decide what they want to believe. But there is what is a fact anymore and what is truth? And no, it is not like Google. It is telling, and we're trusting it because we as humans have come to believe that this
Right.
interface,
Right.
the computer,
You wanna
tells
bel-
you the truth.
You want to believe.
You want to believe,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
And
part
so
of
I
it's-
think we have to think about
It's
that.
talking to you like a human, because I'm
Like a
skeptical when
human,
I get
right.
Google results, but I'm not when I ask this
Yeah.
a doctor
And by the
question.
way, someone told me to name mine, so I gave it a name, which is an old Jewish man name. It's a problem I have. And I, and I named it that, and it talks back to me like an old Jewish guy, because that's what I called it. And I like that, because it feels like personal.
Right?
You know, and then sometimes it forgets and it goes back to being more generic. And I'm like, wait, where's blah, blah? And then it'll come back again. So it's unstable, but interesting, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, how many of you have named your chat GPTs or your agentic pals? One of you? Okay, a few of you. All right, well, we'll talk about the names later and then send you to your therapist. But
That's
But
Can I do one really technical
Yeah, yeah,
misunderstanding?
yeah.
Because I get it a lot. And partially as a suggestion for you guys to just go, you know, you go to Hey Jen, there's other ones as well. It's a very quick process to create a digital twin of yourself. When we first did the Read AI one, people would ask me, like, which I get, they'd be like, how did you get his hands to move like that? And his eyes, it looked like he was blinking. But it's really just changing the mouth to say what you want that digital twin to say, whether it's in real time or pre-generated. And they look very lifelike. Like, I just think in general, I mean, you're here, so there's some interest in this space. It's worth taking a half hour, an hour, and just kind of go through the experience to see what the process is. It's pretty quick and it's pretty right out of the gate. They're speaking Japanese and
Yeah.
doing, you know, all that. So I think it's worth, you know, for what it's worth. It's not getting it to be really good. Actually, I'd say goes the other way. That takes a lot of time to get, like you said, the knowledge base to be accurate and the mannerisms and everything else. But to just sort of like test it and see where this is going, I think it's worth doing because it's a very quick process. It's filming yourself for about a minute or two, and then you can have this digital twin ready to go.
yeah, and in general, everybody should be playing with this stuff, even if, you know, they're a little fearful of it. But that's how you get in the game. I wanted to ask you, you are using a lot of autonomous content. Not all of it's going front to client, but do you ever worry about authenticity and clients misunderstanding or their end customer thinking it is a dog shaking the hand of the person they picked, which was so amazing. But, you know, is there a balance there that you have to do?
Between AI generated versus human generated?
Well, just authenticity,
Okay,
that
okay.
vibe of authenticity when everything is being automated. you
Okay.
know?
So when we look at authenticity, especially in an enterprise context, I think the users don't care about whether it is a human driving it or an AI driving it. They want the right data. They should be able to trust the outcomes that is there. So that authenticity then filters down to whatever our backend processes are to ensure that authenticity is there. First is, are you sourcing your data from the right places? Is your data trustable? Then do you have checks and balances and guardrails to make sure that, you know, throughout your processing, you know, there are no mistakes happening, especially when you're dealing with the stochastic nature of the model. Is the model hallucinating or not? Making all those checks and balances, you need the pipeline to ensure the authenticity of the outcome. So that's something where I think more and more people are now figuring out and investing more in that pipeline. How do you make the outcomes trustable?
Okay, got it. So not worry about the authenticity. Does it also help if people know it's AI, so it doesn't?
In the enterprise context, it doesn't seem to matter.
Okay.
Because for them, get the work done, get it done correctly, right? I don't care whether it's humans doing or AI doing it. The work has to be done, and it should be accurate.
Does anyone have any points on that or thinking around that authenticity question?
Yeah, I mean, I do think there's, when you think about the enterprise, there's the transition that enterprises are making, right? And the impact on humans in the enterprise. I think you have a great point, right? If the data is correct and there's transparency to it, and I'm understanding why it's making the recommendations or the system's doing what it's doing, I'm okay if it's an AI agent. But also, back to that point of just rethinking process, rethinking skills, right? Upskilling, reskilling your talent. This is impacting people in just a tremendous way, from the back end of the enterprise all the way through to the consumer.
Right. Ben, I want to hop over to you. We're starting to wrap out. New ideas coming down the pike for all of this. What, some breakthroughs or some big ideas or anything that you're thinking about right now for where this might go?
Yeah, as 1 minute on authenticity. I do think, to what you were saying before, people want to know why you're using an AI. I don't think people are going to be happy, at least in creatives and YouTubers. If it's like, hey guys, I'm going to just start using an AI instead, I think there'd be a lot of backlash. But if you're using it to translate, or you're using it to make the content super personalized, you're able to use that content to do something that you couldn't do on your own. I think if people get why you're doing it and why the value is there for AI, I think then it's more about, okay, I understand. If companies, creators, media brands are just like, we need to do something with AI, let's just do it, I think there's a lot of risk that people will be like, no, because we see where this is headed and we don't like it. But if you're adding real value, I think that's important. Okay, a cool space. I just think in general, like video games is a bigger industry than I think TV and movies combined. That you'll start to see this blurring of formats that feel gamified. And so whether that's a thriller or education content, that it'll feel like the way you play a video game, but instead of there being a fixed number of outcomes, the AI actually enables, sort of infinite outcomes within that. So again, it could come up, I'm sure, everyone with their own examples and their own categories, but I think you'll start to see things that feel actually more interactive. For a long time, people talked about interactive content, but it was just branching narrative with like a certain number of options, and those never quite took the way I think that this could really kind of flip the way you think about entertainment and think about what interactivity looks like.
And I think there's an interesting play around IP too, right? Of studios that own IP. I mean, we recently saw the announcement of the partnership with OpenAI with Disney, right? And what they're doing in partnership with their IP and how it's being used. And I love the thought of, how does that extend into games? And, what is the world building that's happening, right? And how are, traditional content creators blending with, fans, and how is that changing, and how are they rethinking the whole picture of their IP and how it's used in different ways? And I think it's just starting to unfold, so I'm really curious to see where that's going to be going.
Any last looks from anyone about an exciting thing they see coming, or want to make another prediction, Jessica? And we'll lay down some dough on it.
We'll meet again in a year and see if I was right or wrong. I just thinking back the evolution of AI. I think we're going to come to the conclusion, or let me put it this way. I think in a year when we're sitting here, we're no longer going to discuss whether or not those fake TikToks, are sort of unraveling and making us all upset. I think we're going to come to a conclusion, and I think we're going to be fine with it. Eventually, the novelty that we're still feeling, that the urge to say like, oh, this is AI, right? Like, I think that's going to disappear. Because I think at some point, either the platforms come to the conclusion that the label that they need to put on there is going to be stronger, right? The way we can set up our accounts to say, yes, we want AI or not, I think that's going to come through stronger. I think we're just going to, AI is here to stay. I think we know that. Yeah. So how it's going to be used, intentionally being used, and the more niche it's going to be used, I think that's going to come through next year.
Anyone else want to wrap us out?
Yeah, I think going forward, I don't think there is going to be any content that is 100% human created. There will be a part that AI will play, small or big, irrespective of which domain it is. And we are all getting used to that way of working, where you collaborate with AI.
Right. Okay, maybe we can come up with different letters.
Right, different letters.
Different letters.
But, and to your point, the content that you see right now, it's touched every part of the Adobe suite.
Yeah,
So it's actually not reality anyway.
Right.
Right? It's just, we're just using different tools now.
and is
That's all it
reality really, ladies and gentlemen, that great right now? Come on. How many of you are ready to run a country? Anyone? Anyway, sorry, I went there. Anybody else want to wrap us out? We have one more minute. Anybody last?
I think 3
what you
years
see
ago,
coming?
I was on this panel and I said, I'm not a robot, I'm real. But in 3 years,
You're gonna
I'm
be a
bringing my
robot.
robot.
Okay.
I support that.
That's fair, because it is a schlep to come to Vegas in the end. Anybody else want to wrap us up? Or let's have a big hand for this great panel, really setting the stage for where things are going. So please check them all out on LinkedIn and see what they're doing, because they
How about
really
a big
are
hand for
driving
our
the future.
moderator, crushing it up
Seriously.
there?
Yeah.
Yes, appreciate that.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.